Middle school can be very difficult to think of games and what to do in the classroom, especially if you're a new teacher, as a lot of people come to the idea that once kids hit middle school age, they actually don't enjoy playing games anymore. They just kind of want to sit there and not do anything. I found this not to be the case. However, I am sure there are definitely a lot of classes that don't want to do anything. But when I was put into middle school a couple of years ago, I found that the students really wanted to play games and have more interest in lessons, considering they are here all day and they have so many subjects that some of them are so boring that actually coming towards learning English and still playing games and having lots of activities for them to do can be an amazing thing for them, and they can really fall in love with learning English again. So I've got 3 games that I found to be very useful that I used several times during the year whilst I was teaching. However, I will say with middle school kids, you can't constantly play the same games again and again. I had to really save these games for only maybe 3-4 times a year or on special occasions. But anyway, here are the 3 games that I recommend you guys can play throughout the year. So the first game is actually an adaptation I got from kindergarten called 4 Corners. You put letters around, numbers around the classrooms, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you've got these dotted around, and then you have 4 sentences on the board. I should also add that I used this for when I was teaching grammar. So I'd have the grammar sentences actually on a PPT, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now all of these answers were correct. There wasn't like you had to go to the correct one, which is sometimes what we would do in kindergarten. So all 4 grammar statements are correct, and the students have to just choose one that they want. And I would use this as a drill game. So then everyone standing at number 1, they would then read the sentence from the PPT. Everyone standing at number 2 would then read it. Everyone standing at 3 would then read it, and everyone standing at 4 would then read it. Then I would reveal the correct, the winning number. And as I said, all the sentences grammatically were correct. And then it's just the ones that were standing at that one. Congratulations to them, they get to continue playing. The people standing at the other ones had to sit down. And now only a few students are playing. And then you have the next round, and this goes on again. The students will choose which number they want to stand at, and they would read them until we got down to however many winning students you would want and what reward you would give them at the end. I was giving candy as a reward, as that was allowed in our school. So when we had like 1 student left standing at number 2, because let's say that was the winning one for that particular round, they would then obviously read the sentence. I revealed the winning number, and they got a piece of candy, and then we could play with everyone else again. The students really enjoyed this because it was getting them up and out of their seats, and they could spread around and have some fun. And there was no fear of them being embarrassed if they didn't know the correct answer, because all sentences were grammatically correct. Okay, game number 2 is a variant of truth or dare. However, I've done it as like dare or read or dare. Usually when we had sort of like long passages to read, you can either get students to do some reading material at home, or if you're doing reading in class, for instance, like a reading lesson, then it can be like a read or dare lesson. I would make, depending on how many students I would have in the classroom, I would make, so if I had 20 students or 40 students, I would make like a few more dares. So if I had like 40 kids, then I would have like maybe 45, 46 dares. And we would select a student. In my middle school, they had like lollipop sticks with their names written on, so you could always choose students at random. And it would either be, I'd give them an option. Here are some dares. I would let them choose a dare, read the dare, and then they could decide if they wanted to do the dare, in which meant they didn't have to read any of the passage, or if they could choose to read if they didn't want to do the dare. And this was one of my most popular games. The students absolutely loved it when we was doing this. They were so willing to do the dares. So I had to also change it a bit, that if you'd done the dare, you could then select students to read, because no one was reading. Even when it was like, you've got to sing for 2 minutes, the student would then sing for 2 minutes. So they really enjoyed the game, and then you can get them to select other people who had to read the passage. And there was all kinds of dares that, one option I didn't want to have to force students to do it, so they could see it first, and then I didn't want to have to follow through saying, oh, now you've seen it, you've got to do it. It was much better to say, okay, now you've seen it, what would you rather do? The dare or read the passage? And there was so many things like hold your breath and spin around 5 times, to singing in class, to walking around the classroom like a robot, or walking around the classroom like a lion, sitting down with your shoe on your head, or jumping up and hitting the top of the board 15 times, or you just got to lie on the floor for like 2 people's turns. So many different variants and so many different dares you can do. A whole bunch of students will be reading, and the students get to laugh and joke with each other during the lesson. My third game works very well for big classes. I don't really have a name for this game, maybe stopwatch game or a competitive game. But both the classroom was split into like 2 teams, and I'd have like 6 questions. 6 questions they had to answer from whatever sort of topic you're doing. Whether you're doing a language point, then they had to respond within a certain language point. If you're doing a grammar point, they would have to answer one of the 6 questions using the correct grammar. And so one student would come up, they would roll a dice, and they would say, have to answer question 2. They answer question 2. The next kid comes up, he rolls the dice, he answers he rolls 3, he answers question 3. The next kid comes up, he rolls 2, he has to answer 2 again. And you keep going until all 6 questions have been answered. And you can just do this rolling dice, and it keeps going and going and going. It usually gets to quite a lot of the class before they actually roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So in the meantime, the other side of the classroom, they are timing them. So I would give them my phone, and I would give them the stopwatch on my phone, and they would start the stopwatch, and they would time the students to see how long it would take them to answer all 6 questions. And once they've answered them, it's like, stop, okay, stop the stopwatch. That is this team's time. And then we swap. So now this team would be answering the 6 questions, and this team would be using my phone as a stopwatch to time the students to see how long it would take them to answer all 6 questions. And once you've done that, obviously the team with the lowest time, who could answer all 6 questions the fastest, basically mean who got luckier rolling the dice, would be the winning team. Now I would say these games can work well with both small classes and big classes. The 4 corners one might be a little bit more difficult with large number of students, but you can just select, say, like 10 students at a time to play, or 15 students at a time to play if you're dealing with 40, 45 kids. If you're dealing with small numbers of kids, like 20 students, then everyone would be able to participate in these games quite easily. But anyway, middle school kids love playing games just as much as anybody else. And just think about it, if you're an adult and you still enjoy playing games, then of course middle school kids are going to enjoy playing games too. I hope these games help you in your lessons, and if they have given you any sort of benefit at all, please feel free to like and subscribe. But anyway, for now, that's all I've got to say about middle school, and as we say in China, bye bye.